Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I would recommend Angel Care to anybody. They have really helped me regain my strength.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
I couldn't have survived this without Angels Care.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to our Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durrell. We're at Picken Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University, third floor, with the fifth Registrar in Fort Hays State history, Craig Karlin. And we're going to talk a little about the Registrar's office, and also, since Craig in a previous life was Director of Financial Assistance at Fort Hays State for 19 years, that topic will come up as well. Craig, if we could, start with kind of an overview of the Registrar's office. What does the Registrar's office do?
You know, I get a lot of that, these days. People had heard that I have been promoted to the Registrar, and their first thing is, what in the world is a Registrar? Mm-hmm. But the Registrar, traditionally, historically, on college campuses and universities, has been the keeper of the records, the academic records, and that's exactly what we do. We keep transcripts, we keep records that come out of the academic area. Mm-hmm. We're the folks that collect grades, all of those sorts of things, issue transcripts, diplomas. I got a stack of diplomas on my desk right now to sign. So we're the ones that keep all of the academic records, and at its most basic level, that's what the Registrars does. We also do a lot of other things, and a big part of what we do is we analyze credit as it comes in from other schools and make sure that it counts towards their degrees at this institution. We also do things like degree summaries, making sure that students are on the right path for their degree plan, those sorts of things. So we have a whole staff that does that as well. So, and there's a lot of other things too. We help pull off commencement and a variety of other things. So
the records are very important, not only for students, for future references, but also for future employers, aren't they, Craig?
Oh yeah, a lot of jobs require that you provide documentation that you have a degree, that you meet the criteria for employment, those sorts of things, that you have certain classes in many cases, those sorts of things. So keeping the records and doing all of that is it's an awesome responsibility, because we have all of those academic records since the institution began back in 1902, and we store those and keep them safe, because it's an academic history that everybody, if they ever need to get a transcript, they can come back and they can get it, we can issue it, and we can send it on to wherever it needs to go.
So these go back to the very beginnings of Fort Hays State University then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How are they transposed? Are there still hard copies, paper copies? Have you transposed to current technology? How does that work?
Well, we haven't both. A lot of the early transcripts, a lot of that stuff is we're kind of like the beginning of the archives of the institution, because of all of that. But a lot of it we still have in paper, that's out there, it's paper. But what we've done, it's kind of hard to throw that stuff away because it's really neat. Nola Osh is an example. Nola, we went back and the registrar that was here before that was Dr. Joey Lynn. He went back and got her original paper transcript when she was here, way back when. I think it was in the 30s. Of course, we have all that digitized now in Image Now and Scan, so we have it both ways in paper, but yeah, we'll keep that for a long time.
But it's a history of Fort Hays State, literally, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And you look there and you see for example, you'll see in the instructors was President Picken or something like that.
For whom the hall is named.
Is named for, and it's history. Yeah.
And speaking of Dr. Lynn, Dr. Joey Lynn, whom we visited with on our Community Connection program in the past, is Vice President for Student Affairs, said that Karlin was the top candidate of a nationwide search because of his extensive knowledge of Fort Hays State policies and procedures, his broad technical background, and his endless passion and commitment to student success, which I think, Craig, goes back to your original days at Fort Hays State too, perhaps, huh?
Yeah, I've been around a while. Yeah, I think that's what you're getting at,
A
right?
long line of Karlins, right,
Right,
Craig?
a long line of Karlins, yes.
Tell us about some history.
Well, my family, both my mother and my father are from around here. My dad came from a big family, 15 in the family, grew up by Catherine. After World War II, they settled out by Oakley area. That's where I grew up, and I had one brother and 4 sisters, so there's 6 of us. About all of us graduated from Fort Hays State, so we were here. My dad attended here before and after the war, and so one of my older sisters, Myra, she came back and she attended Fort Hays, and a lot of us followed after that. So I got here. In 1984, fall of 1984. Graduated in December of '88, and started off and did some admissions work in the admissions office when it was over in Custer Hall, and that's when, by the way, I got to know Joey Lynn. Was during that, and Joey and I were in there at the same time. But anyway, I spent a few years doing that, and then the opportunity arose that I could run the university scholarship program. So I did that as assistant director of financial aid. Carl Metzger, who was there at the time as director of financial aid, Carl retired, and then I was named the director of financial aid back in 1996. And then all the way up through until December of 14, I've worked in student affairs, worked around the Registrar's office, student fiscal services, student services areas. And then when Dr. Lynn, Joey moved over to Vice President of Student Affairs, he asked me to cover both offices, which I did since December. And so I'm still covering both offices, but not as Director of Financial Aid. I'm now the Registrar. So kind of doing the same thing. We're searching for a Director of Financial Aid. That process is ongoing now. And hopefully we'll get that wrapped up, and I can just be the Registrar for a while.
But, Craig, one of the reasons we wanted to talk with you was definitely about your 19 years of service in the financial assistance area.
Yeah.
Where you've really helped a lot of students find a financial path to a college education, which for many students in western Kansas, those students who attend Fort Hays State, is still a significant part of what they need to be able to have that college education.
Oh yeah. Financial assistance has helped countless students. The programs that mainly we deal with now were promulgated back in 1965. It was part of LBJ's Great Society. And they have progressed, they have taken on different forms, but there's really always been 3 forms of financial aid, and that's loans, grants, and work. So all of those programs are still very much in play right now. They've been expanded, they've been adjusted over the years for financial aid, but for example, if you take, and add in scholarships at Fort Hays State, if you add up all the scholarships, and tuition waivers and everything, it's about $75 million annually for us here that we run through the financial aid office downstairs. And it's very significant. It helps a lot of students. The majority of it, of course, is in loans, and that's where the financial aid, at least at the federal level for sure, has gone over the years. There's much more loans now than there ever has before. There's been a lot of press recently about students borrowing too much and all of that, and I can say that yes, there are students that borrow too much, But there are a lot more students that borrow responsibly, that do it right. Not everybody qualifies, of course, for a grant, but just about everybody's going to qualify for a loan.
And in that situation, Craig, the students who are more responsible in their loan requirements far outweigh the number who are irresponsible in those requirements.
Oh, absolutely. The big thing that's happened, I think, in higher education in general, is that as institutions have gotten into distance learning, and you know that Fort Hays State has a virtual college and is very much into that.
One of the pioneers, as a matter of fact.
Actually, yes, is opened up higher education to underserved populations all over the place. So it's not just the 18 to 21, 22-year-olds anymore. You go to graduate school 3 years after you complete your bachelor's degree, which was kind of the thing that was going on when I was going through higher education, way back when. Now you can come back to college all the time. And so there's a lot of students that maybe had a false start in college that are coming back. And they're saying, okay, I'm going to complete that degree now. I got 30 hours, 40 hours someplace or wherever, and they can do it from wherever they want to. So it's opened up higher education for a lot of people that it's inaccessible. They had to go to night class or actually had to be on campus and things of this nature. Certainly we have plenty of that still going on. But and in financial aid terms, that means that there's just more people that have access to it, so the programs are much more. There's a lot more money being borrowed because there's a lot more people that can go to college.
And I think it certainly should be said, Craig, that the affordable education that Fort Hays State provides has allowed so many more students to take advantage of a college education than they would if they were trying to go to an institution where the tuition rates and the other expenses were so much higher.
Yeah, it's one of the things that Fort Hays has done an exemplary job at, is keeping the costs down.
Nationally recognized.
Nationally recognized for that, yes. And we've grown a lot, especially in the virtual college, which is common knowledge, of course. But having grown through that, a lot of that is because we are maybe less than a third tuition of what you would get out there at University of Phoenix or Capella and all those places. And keeping the cost down is really a way of providing financial aid. And a lot of people don't realize that, but you can come here and get a good quality education, be it on campus or virtually, and you will leave here without having all of that to pay back.
Craig, in our final couple of minutes, would you address to parents that are trying to, maybe in middle school students now or high school students now, address to parents how some of the ways you've learned are efficient for helping to fund that college education for their children?
Well, and it's really that hasn't changed a lot over the years. I mean, even back when my dad went to college way back when, they didn't have the financial aid programs, but it's really about, I can remember my dad sitting down with me and saying, you're going to college, it's time to get a budget going. And I can remember probably dozing off at that time, but it's the best advice. I mean, you just need to do it earlier, and especially at the cost that they are. And while Fort Hays is the tuition is very manageable, you have to also remember that it still costs money. So people need to prepare for that. If people have it in disposable income, fine, whatever, that's great. But a lot of people can't, even at lower cost institutions. So what folks need to do is, they need to plan. They need to get a budget together at the time that they're going to school. But more importantly, I think, if you're planning, especially if, families that are just starting off and anything like that, it's not unheard of. And in fact, it's a wonderful idea that if you know that you're going to have children, or, when children are very young and in, grade school, that they start saving and borrowing and planning their, education trajectory, if you will, from that point forward. So saving,
Much like you do for retirement
yeah,
plans.
retirement plans and saving for college and everything else. There's 529 plans that are out there. Kansas has a wonderful program with that, which is a great way to help fund that. And it's a tool to help families and individuals save for those expenses. And some people who don't do that, they would save in different ways and all that sort of thing. And my years of being in financial aid, I could see families that would come in that would have six-figure incomes and had so for a long time, that didn't have any money for their children to go to school or be able to help pay for that and that sort of thing. And I saw families that came in that maybe didn't have that type of income, or half that, or less than half that did a good job of saving. So it was less stress upon the family at the time. So it's making good decisions as you come up through. And again, it's no different than planning for your retirement and all that. Some people are better at it than others, and how that all goes.
But it's time to start.
It's always time to start. Yeah.
Craig Karlin, who is the 5th Registrar in Fort Hays State history, from Pickett Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University, our Community Connection. Thanks for watching.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hays and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
There's not any words to describe their kindness.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
They saved my life.